In this video, we will explore the fundamental principles of must clarification. It takes place after pressing and before alcoholic fermentation, serving as a key transition between must extraction and fermentation management. Its proper execution has a lasting influence on wine quality. Must clarification refers to the removal of suspended solid particles from the must before fermentation. This operation applies primarily to white and rosé wines, where the must is separated from the grape skins at an early stage of the process. In the case of red grapes, clarification is less commonly practiced. However, it may be carried out after thermovinification. Now, let's consider the main objectives behind must clarification. The first relates to microbiological risk reduction. By limiting populations of undesirable yeasts, bacteria, and molds, clarification contributes to better cellar hygiene and significantly lowers the likelihood of spontaneous or deviant fermentation. At the same time, it is important to acknowledge that a minimum proportion of suspended solids in the must is beneficial for alcoholic fermentation. These particles act as a support matrix for yeast cells, facilitate the evacuation of CO2, and provide essential nutrients, including fatty acids, that are critical for healthy yeast metabolism. Clarification also reduces the activity of oxidative enzymes, notably lacase and polyphenol oxidases, and removes oxidizable substrates from the must. Together, these effects contribute to enhanced long-term stability in the finished wine. Finally, must clarification improves aromatic quality. By eliminating coarse lees, which are often responsible for vegetal or earthy off flavors, clarification helps preserve varietal aromas of the grape. It also prevents the development of reductive off flavors, which are associated with an excess of suspended solids. At this point, it is worth pausing on an essential practical consideration. The management of microorganisms and oxidative enzymes described previously is not achieved by clarification alone. It relies equally on the correct and timely use of sulfur dioxide. Sulfite additions play a central role in protecting the must from both microbial contamination and oxidative degradation. However, it is important to keep in mind that sulfite are not without consequence for aromatic quality. Their use is associated with the development of reductive off flavors, and this risk increases proportionally with the level of sulfite addition. Careful dosing is therefore essential. Now, let's return to the core of our subject. A key practical question arises. How do we actually measure the degree of clarification achieved? The quantity of suspended solids in must is assessed using a turbidimeter, and the result is expressed in NTU, nephelometric turbidity unit. Several studies have established a safe working range of must clarification, which lies between 50 and 250 NTU. Above 250 NTU, the risks associated with herbaceous and reductive off flavors increase significantly. These include sulfur-related compounds that can give rise to cooked cabbage or hydrogen sulfide-like notes, clearly undesirable in the final wine. Below 50 NTU, however, the consequences are equally problematic. Extremely low turbidity can directly reduce fermentation kinetics and alter yeast population dynamics, while increasing the production of volatile acidity. Musts clarified to an excessive degree may struggle to complete fermentation due to nutrient limitations, insufficient adsorption of fermentation toxins, and an inadequate number of nucleation sites needed for CO2 evacuation. So, how does one choose the optimal target within this safe working range? A particularly compelling study, Effect of Juice Turbidity on Fermentative Volatile Compounds in White Wines, offers useful guidance. Conducted on 3 white grape varieties, Chardonnay, Pinot Gris, and Müller-Thurgau, across 6 turbidity levels ranging from 15 to 350 NTU, the study provides a solid experimental framework. The results indicate that turbidity levels just below 100 NTU represent the best overall compromise. At this level, clarification is sufficient to limit the risk of sluggish fermentations and reductive off flavors, while still allowing for the development of desirable fruity and fermentative aromas. The authors further note that slightly higher NTU values may enhance aromatic complexity. In practical terms, This aligns well with cellar experience. Producers tend to tolerate higher turbidity in musts destined for longer aging. In such cases, the additional solids can contribute to greater textural depth and aromatic complexity over time, and the extended aging helps ensure overall stability. A second important finding from the same study is worth emphasizing. The authors demonstrated that the variability attributable to must turbidity within the range investigated is actually lower than the variability observed due to yeast strain selection. This is a key takeaway. The choice of yeast strain remains the primary lever for directing white wine aroma and should be supported by an informed choice of must turbidity. Let's now turn to a contrasting example: the production of wine-based spirits. In the Cognac appellation in France, musts are typically rich in grape solids, and fermentations are intentionally run at much higher turbidity levels, commonly ranging between 500 and 1,500 NTU. These conditions, which would be considered exceptional in standard winemaking practice, are here regarded as favorable for generating the desired organoleptic profiles of the final eau de vie. Now that we have covered the objectives and the NTU targets, let's move on to the practical techniques used to achieve must clarification. Several techniques are available to the winemaker, each with its own characteristics and constraints. The simplest approach is static settling, which relies on gravity to allow particles to sediment naturally, sometimes with the aid of enzymes over a period of 12 to 48 hours. Compared with static settling, dynamic methods offer greater speed and enhanced flexibility. These include flotation, filtration via rotary vacuum filters, press filters, or cross-flow filtration systems, as well as centrifugation. Among these, flotation has grown considerably in popularity in recent decades, thanks to its speed, adaptability, and high efficiency. To conclude this video, let's consolidate the key decisions a winemaker must integrate when approaching from must clarification to fermentation. 3 levers work in concert: the sulfiting strategy, the level and method of clarification, and the choice of yeast strain. Selecting the right clarification method also requires a clear-eyed assessment of cellar conditions. Workload, processing capacity, and available equipment all determine what is practically achievable. Technical ambition must always be balanced against operational constraints.